You join using the link on the website or on a mobile tablet device, it is not always possible to identify you, and you may not be recorded as being in remote attendance. I welcome everyone to the Licensing Subcommittee meeting. Emergency evacuation procedure. There are no scheduled tests for fire alarms during this event. If the alarm does sound, please leave the building quickly without collecting any of your possessions and use the doors signed fire escape and assemble in the car park at the front of the building. Await instructions from the fire marshals before returning to the building. Should anyone require assistance in evacuation the building, please make the volunteers staff in the front of the office aware of any special needs, so that suitable arrangements may be made in the event of an emergency. Have we got any apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Chair. There are no apologies. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite the three members of the subcommittee and all officers to introduce themselves. I'm Councillor Derek Carnell, Chair of the committee.
I'm Councillor Tony Winklis, member of the committee.
Councillor Simon Clark, committee member.
I'm Helen Ward, the legal advisor.
Jo Thomas, licensing team leader.
Lorraine Crowley, licensing officer.
Kelly Mackenzie, Democratic Services.
Thank you, everyone. Declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest?
None to declare.
Nothing to declare, Chairman.
Nothing to declare. We will now adjourn for a short time to finish off some of the things we need to read and see. So hopefully it won't be too long. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Right. This is a review of premises licensing under the Licensing Act 2003 at Premier Mackenade Store, Canterbury Road, Faversham, ME13 8NG. Can I confirm that all parties are aware of the subcommittee's hearing procedure and that each party has a copy of the hearing procedures? The subcommittee will allow all parties to put their case fully and make full submissions. The subcommittee procedure shall take the form of a discussion led by the subcommittee. Where any person attending the hearing behaves in a disruptive manner, the subcommittee may direct that person to leave the hearing, even if it's only temporarily. All subcommittee members have pre-read all the papers and any other documents contained in the report regarding the hearing. Yeah, that's what we'll do, yeah. Right, could everyone please introduce themselves?
Good morning, Chair. My name's Andy Blair. I work for KCC Trading Standards as a Youth Harm Reduction Officer.
Good morning, Chair. My name is James Woodett. I'm an Operations Manager with Kent County Council Trading Standards.
Morning, Chair. My name's PC Carrie Knight. I work for Kent Police Licensing.
PC Andre Smuts, Kent Police Licensing.
Good morning, I'm Michael Kang. I'm the agent that's representing the premises licence holder today.
Hi, my name's Mr. Prajesh Patel. I'm the owner of the Premier Mackenade stores.
Hi, Chair. I'm Shivan Patel. So I'm manager of Premier Mackenade store.
Could I please ask the licensing officer to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. Members are asked to determine an application for the review of a premises licence for Premier Mackenade Stores, Canterbury Road, Faversham, under the Licensing Act 2003, served on the Council by PC Andre Smuts of Kent Police. The grounds for the review relate to the licensing objectives of the protection of public safety and the protection of children from harm, and relates to an allegation of the sale of alcohol to a child. The review application brought by the police is shown within the agenda, starting on page 17. The police have also provided supporting evidence on page 23 of your agenda, an email to Mr. Prajesh Patel informing him of the incident, and on page 25 to 27, a witness statement from PC Knight. The police have also submitted CCTV and body-worn camera footage that has been circulated to the subcommittee and premises licence holders representative prior to the hearing. As required under the Licensing Act 2003, a 28-day consultation was carried out. During this period, a representation was received from James Widgett of Kent County Council Trading Standards. This representation can be seen as Appendix 7 on pages 35 to 37 of the agenda. Mr. Widgett is present today and will be presenting his comments. The premises licence holder's representative, Mr. Cheng, has submitted a portfolio of evidence which has been provided in advance to subcommittee and the police. Additional documents submitted after the council closed on Friday have they been allowed, Helen?
Yes.
Have been agreed to be considered. As part of the review application, the police have the opportunity to request of the subcommittee the enforcement action that they deem appropriate based on the circumstances. In this case, the police are seeking the addition of conditions under the operating schedule of the licence. Suggested conditions have been provided by the police and can be seen as Appendix 5 on pages 29 to 31 of your agenda. The police are also seeking a period of suspension of the licence to allow time, should the conditions be applied, for them to come into effect. Members are required to determine the application as they think fit. The steps they can consider are shown in section 6.1 of the report on page 6 of your agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I ask the police to put forward their case? Questions may be then put to the applicant by members and all other parties. Thank you.
Morning, Chair. Morning, colleagues. So on the 1st of March this year, Kent Police were informed of an incident where a 14-year-old child had managed to purchase a 1 litre bottle of vodka, Premier brand vodka, from the manager of the premises, Shivan Patel. I'm going to refer to him as Shiv after this. I'll apologise, I said Shivan in my paperwork, but it's Shivan, my mistake. But Shiv. So the child and another 14-year-old child then drank the alcohol, both of whom became ill and were sick at their homes due to the level of their intoxication. So when my colleagues and I went and spoke with Shiv, he confirmed that he had sold the child the vodka, but that she had actually shown him a copy of her ID on her phone at the time. He also explained that he was a person who staffs his family's McNaid shop, and his father works mostly at their shop, a different shop within Sittingbourne. So upon requesting Shiv to show us the CCTV, he was adamant that it did not work, as in not recording. He did not have the code and wasn't able to obtain the code because his father was unavailable. He said to me during that visit, on 6 times during that visit, that the CCTV was not working, and he knew that for a fact. And they were actually waiting a technician to repair it. So it was only when I threatened to take the hard drive completely from the shop that he was then able to contact his father, log on to their CCTV and produce the footage of this child buying the alcohol. Also, since submitting the paperwork, it dawned on me that during our visit, he actually was able to log on to their CCTV's footage from remotely from his phone. So he had access to a fully working CCTV system. So I do not believe that his account of it being faulty is at all true in any way. So on the CCTV, the child can be seen attending the shop on more than one occasion that day, which is where earlier on is where Shiv said that she's produced him a copy of her ID. There was a suggestion that the child's associates made to her father that the child who bought the alcohol had swapped phone numbers with Shiv, and that they'd exchanged messages throughout the day. She then returned later on to get the vodka. That's not really in play. There's no suggestion that there's been any inappropriate, untoward messages swapped. I'm not saying that whatsoever. Or no allegations been made to that account. So she returned later on in the day at 7:24 p.m. where she was seen to buy the vodka. There is no evidence on the shop CCTV to support the account that the child supplied a copy of her ID on her phone. Having asked the premises license holder to produce the footage from the camera from behind the counter, where it can be seen clearly from that view that the child did not have a copy of her ID on her phone, that footage was not supplied to us. So Shiv's explanation still confuses me. So let's assume for a minute that the child had shown him a copy of her ID on her phone. So Shiv initially said to me that he had sold the alcohol to her as he had seen her ID. Later during that conversation on that same day, he said that he had not sold the alcohol to her because he had refused the alcohol based on having seen the ID. She then returned later on to then purchase the ID, and in the meantime he thought to himself, well, perhaps she is 18. So refused, sold, didn't see it. I'm confused as to why it was sold to her at all. So it still confuses me. He then explained that by the time that she had returned later on that day, he'd thought about it, and the fact that she may well have been 18, so sold her the alcohol without seeing that ID again. And that she was that she'd also pleaded with him when she arrived to buy the alcohol, that she had pleaded with him, so she was quite insistent. So in the footage of her purchasing the alcohol, which I believe everyone's seen, there's no pleading that goes on. She arrives, she purchases it and leaves. So that doesn't ring true to me. Nonetheless, it just doesn't make sense why she would have come back later to buy the alcohol unless they had had an online conversation during the day where possibly that pleading happened. I don't know. And possibly he hadn't seen an ID at all. In any case, the whys and wherefores of who did what did have all become academic, because PC Knight has had a conversation with the child's mother, who confirmed that the child said to her that she didn't use an ID at all, fake or otherwise, on her phone. So we have no doubt to disbelieve that account. In any case, Kent Police are of the opinion that the insistence to not show the CCTV was an attempt to hide a blatant underage sale. This prospect is exacerbated by the fact that later during the visit, Shiv was able to operate the shop's functioning CCTV, as I said, remotely on his phone. So having at their disposal, Chair, options under the Licensing Act, Kent Police would like this subcommittee to consider the circumstances and impose at least, but not limited to, the conditions suggested as in my appendix, as you're aware. So I am actually pleased to know that the licence holder has indicated their agreement to my suggested conditions verbatim. I've also become aware that Shiv's obtained his personal licence in the meantime, so congratulations. So additionally, Kent Police request of the subcommittee that they consider a period of suspension for the premises licence to allow for a period of time for these new conditions and these changes to become embedded within the fabric of the premises. And if the subcommittee would like to avoid imposing the harshest of consequences, i.e. revocation, which is obviously was an option, please be mindful of your right to impose a suspension nonetheless, if merely to allow for a period for the premises to reflect upon their actions, and all options really are available to yourselves. So any actions imposed by the subcommittee would assist the premises in the future to promoting the licensing objectives, not least of which include public safety and the protection of children from harm, which is arguably the most important objective. And that concludes what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Officer Mark. Please could I ask the trading standards to put... Are there any questions from the subcommittee? Councillor Winklish.
Thank you. One question I'd like to ask Mr Patel is, was you fully aware under the licensing laws and regulations that it is illegal to sell vapes, alcohol?
Councillor Winklish, you've got to ask the police.
Sorry.
Not the...
Sorry, it's Mr Patel I wish to ask later on. Oh, via the police. Via the police. Was it made, sorry about this, was it made quite clear by Mr Patel when you visited the premises that he understood that it was illegal to sell vapes, etc., and alcohol? That he fully understood what the licensing laws are?
I didn't ask the question as to whether he was aware that it's illegal to sell vape products or alcohol to people under 18. But it was quite clear that the fact that he'd volunteered immediately, but she gave me her ID, she was 18, it was quite clear that he understood that. It's an assumption that we're just happy to accept.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Thank you.
Councillor Clark.
Nothing from me at this time, Chair. Thank you.
Nothing from me.
You can ask if the licence holder has any questions.
Yeah, has the licence holder's got any questions?
Yeah, no questions, sir.
Thank you. Trading standards, any questions? Thank you very much. And Helen.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask about, you have requested in particular that the committee consider conditions in a period of suspension. That period of suspension to allow time for the conditions to bed in, and also you say for them to reflect on what's happened. So 2 questions. Firstly, since the review was instigated, there has been evidence provided of training. So does that provide you with some comfort that that training has now taken place? And would that impact how you approach the idea of a suspension? And my second question, which is sort of linked, is that the evidence you've given would suggest that Shiv has been obstructive and perhaps provided misleading information. Are you satisfied that moving forward that would not happen again? Thank you.
I initially suggested the conditions and a suspension to allow for the conditions and the training to have taken place. I'm happy in the knowledge that they've sprung into action and Shiv's become trained up as a personal license holder. Any training is going to be good in the promotion of the objectives. The fact that it was him who we had the disagreement with and who we didn't totally believe on the day has kept me slightly cautious of moving forward. So I'm going to be keeping a very close eye. The suspension that I asked for was to allow for that to happen. I've suggested that the subcommittee consider their own opinion and impose what they think might be appropriate. But his training has certainly, to my mind, gone some way. But I don't trust him fully, so I'm going to need to keep a close eye, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah. Please could trading standards put forward their case. Questions may be put to the trading standards by members and all other parties. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The Trading Standards Department of Kent County Council, as a responsible authority under the Licensing Act 2003, makes representations on the grounds of protection of children from harm objective in connection with a review application brought by Kent Police for the premises under discussion. The content of the review application submitted by Kent Police has been noted, and the circumstances surrounding it led this authority to share serious concerns of Kent Police in respect of the suitability of the ongoing licence at the premises. This authority holds records relating to the premises. These records are in the form of complaints received by this authority and visits conducted by officers of this authority. In 2023, the service visited the premises twice, received 5 complaints from members of the public and a youth worker. These complaints were mainly around the sale of vapes to underage children and children in school uniform. In May 2023, officers visited the premises and spoke to Mr. Shivam Patel. During that conversation, Mr. Patel said that older youths coming to purchase vapes, etc. for younger children. The officer pointed out that we had complaints of children in school uniform and some as young as 10 and 11 years old reporting as buying age-related products. During the visit, officers discussed the Challenge 25 policy. In discussion, Mr. Patel said that he would challenge to approximately 19 years of age. Officers provided advice on how to apply the Challenge 25 process. When asked the legal age to sell vapes, Mr. Patel initially said 16 or 18. Then when questioned, confirmed 18. Officers asked to see a refusals book. There was only one entry for May 2021. In November 2023, visits were made again. There were no staff training records, no statutory tobacco notice, and officers had recorded that the shop worker had indicated no children hang around, and there were no proxy sales, which is contrary to the information that we given previously. On the 15th of January 2025, again, officers visited. The refusals book was not up to date. There were no staff training records, and there was incorrect time on date on the CCTV. From the contact with this premises, this authority has recorded that the premises has not had training records in place since 2023, despite advice and guidance on this matter. Staff at the premises have explained possible underage sales as proxy sales, which is older youths purchasing for children, and then also stated there are no issues with proxy sales or children hanging around the store. Staff at the premises do not appear to understand the legal age to sell an e-cigarette or a vape, with two members of staff both thinking it could be 16 or 18. Now, a vape isn't part of a licensing requirement, but it is still an age-related product. The confusion on the appropriate age undermines any confidence in the applicant of the licence requirements to protect children from harm. The recent evidence of the sale of a bottle of vodka to a vulnerable young person should therefore be treated most seriously. The manner of the sale is of great concern, as there are allegations of communication via mobile phones between the child and the shop worker prior to the sale, and that doesn't fall within any training under licensing legislation. The facts presented suggest the premise licence holder is either unwilling or unable to suitably protect children from harm. Therefore, Kent Trading Standards support the request by Kent Police for additional conditions and a suspension of the licence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? No? No? Thank you very much. I've got one question. Very useful, your little report here. I just want to make it clear, during one of your visits there was 38 illegal vapes. These were taken away and destroyed. So these were illegal for some reason, I take it.
Yes, Chair. So I haven't got the exact details of why they were illegal, but they would either have been overstrength, they could have had incorrect labelling. So for a vape to be legally sold in the UK, it cannot hold more than a 2 ml tank of liquid, and the strength of the nicotine within it also has to be stated. And then depending on the strength, there are certain warnings, including tactile warnings for people who are poor of sight. And if any of those issues are not present and correct, then officers have the legal obligation to seize those and remove them from supply.
Thank you very much. Helen, any questions?
Nothing from me, thank you, Chair. The police and licence holder.
Any questions from the police?
Not from us, thank you, Chair.
No? Questions? Yes, please. Thank you.
Just a couple of questions, please. In your representation, you've listed quite a number of complaints from 2003. Have you got any evidence to back up any of those complaints, or were they just simply complaints that were called in or emailed in or done on an online form? Any evidence to back up those complaints at all?
So the complaints are received via multiple of ways into our service. So the majority of those were from members of the public, and I believe from a couple of youth workers, and that's why we then visited the store a short while after that to actually discuss those issues with the premises. But further evidence, I'm not quite sure what it is you would like me to provide.
There were only complaints. They were never backed up that they were actually committing any offences or anything else.
That's correct. They were complaints made by members of the public to us, and I believe 2 of them were from parents saying that their children had purchased from the shop.
And is it safe to say that you had no complaints in 2004 because there were no complaints listed in 2004 on your representation?
That's correct. For a period of time, there were no complaints received, and it is something that I would like to understand, and we haven't had that opportunity yet.
No further questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Please could the premises licensing holder and their representative put forward their case? Questions may be asked by members and all other parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Firstly, we'd like to really apologise. Siobhan would like to apologise for this incident ever occurring and being before you today. The premises licence, as you can see on page 9 of the agenda pack, and in particular, if I can draw your attention to page 14 of the agenda pack. Page 14, under Annex 2, conditions consistent with the operating schedule, there are no conditions there at the moment. So that means there are no conditions for CCTV. So there is no obligation under the Licensing Act of 2003 for the premises to hand over any CCTV. There are allegations that Shiv could have viewed CCTV on his phone. He can view CCTV on his phone, but could only do that after he'd got the code from Mr. Patel here. There is also no condition on the premises licence under Annex 2 for Challenge 21 or Challenge 25 to operate. In fact, the only condition there for challenging people is in condition 9, which is on page 12 of the report. And if you could look at page 12 of the report on condition 9, which is in the middle. That's a mandatory condition, and that condition says that the premises licence holder or club premises certificate holder must ensure that an age verification policy is adopted in respect of a premises in relation to the sale or supply of alcohol. And then at number 3, it says the policy must require individuals who appear, and I put emphasis on the word appear, to the responsible person to be under 18 years of age, and then to ask for their ID. I think you've seen the CCTV this morning. We would say that, or the question you have to ask yourself, does that person in the CCTV appear to be under 18? If you think that they do appear to be under 18, then they should have been challenged, quite rightly. In my mind, I did not personally think that that person appeared to be under 18. She certainly wasn't dressed as a 14-year-old. The offence of selling alcohol to a minor is within the Licensing Act at section 146. And section 146 of the Licensing Act does say that a person commits an offence if he sells alcohol to an individual that is aged under 18. And where a person is charged with an offence under this section by reason of his own conduct, it is a defence that nobody would have reasonably suspected from the individual's appearance that he was aged under 18. So we would say that the person, in our mind, didn't appear to be 18. And therefore was not challenged. Under the Police and Reform Social Responsibility Bill, that lists the persistently selling of alcohol to children, and that defines the persistent selling of alcohol to children as 2 sales in a 3-month period, We've got one sale here, and I think Shiv's been at the premises for 5 years, so it is a one-off. And under the persistent selling of alcohol to children, the police do have an option, and remember this is for two sales in a 3-month period, not one, for the premises to voluntarily cease licensable activities for up to 14 days, from 2 to 14 days. The courts can give an unlimited fine, but I believe the courts cannot revoke a licence. So really, if this was a persistent sale of alcohol to children, the police would have had the option maybe for 2 weeks to close the store or to ask them to stop selling alcohol. This premises licence became effective in 2005. In fact, November the 24th, 2005, as can be seen on page 4 of the report. It was transferred to Prajesh in April of 2020, almost 5 years ago. And in those 5 years, there have been no issues. Indeed, I think in the 19 and a half years that the Licensing Act have been in, there have probably been no issues because there are no Annex 3 conditions that were imposed at a hearing, no Annex 2 conditions that are probably imposed via a minor variation. So it's safe to say, and because this licence was granted in November 2005, we can assume that it was grandfathered over because that's when the Act commenced. So there's been a licence to sell alcohol at these premises for a considerable number of years, and indeed one incident in certainly 19 and a half years of the Licensing Act of 2003 has to be borne in mind. Trading standards have listed a number of complaints, but they have not substantiated these complaints with any evidence. Often under 18s do say that they're buying alcohol from a shop, but it's not the shop they're buying it from, because the last thing that an under 18 wants to do is stop the shop selling the age-restricted product to them. So they'll often say, and we come across this a lot, that it was the other shop that sold it, not the one that they're normally going to. Trading standards also mention illegal vapes being seized, and you referred to this in questioning. Councillor Wick listed. This was in 2003. There are only a small number of vapes, just only 38 units. It wasn't cases and cases and cases, it's 38 units. I have provided you with a copy of a news report that was in the Sun newspaper in 2023. And this is where Tesco's, Morrison's and Sainsbury's removed vapes from their stores because they were illegal. There was a lot of confusion in 2023, and I'm sure the likes of Tesco's, Morrison's, Sainsbury's and their buyers and the legal departments behind them and advisors, if they fall foul to the law and can buy illegal vapes mistakenly, then a small shop such as the Mackinade store, you can assume that they would fall foul as well, but not know about it. We've also provided you with 2 certificates from the National Lottery, one from July 2022 and one from July 2024. This would confirm, these are for test purchases where National Lottery come in and they send people in to try and buy lottery tickets, etc. And you can't buy a lottery ticket unless you're 18. That's just to prove that they have passed a test purchase with lottery tickets. So the premises do operate a challenge policy. They do refuse sales, and indeed that is your evidence that sales are being refused. It's evidence, hard evidence that's in front of you. It's not hearsay evidence by complaints from unknown people or complaints from people that are maybe trying to put the pin on the Mackinade store rather than the store that they're buying the products from where they shouldn't be. Kent Police have proposed a number of conditions, and these conditions are in the report at pages 29 to 31, and they're also duplicated in our evidence bundle at pages 2 to 4. I can confirm that those conditions are agreed, and my client would be happy for those conditions to be added to the premises licence if you wish to do that. I'd like to say at this point that Mr Patel also has another store in Sittingbourne at Woodbury Stores. Woodbury Stores is not part of this review, but that licence also has no conditions on it. But as a responsible retailer, Progess has taken it upon himself to submit a minor variation for that store, and I think there's just a few days left to run for that minor variation. But that minor variation is putting those same conditions onto that premises licence. So it's not that he just wants to deal with this one premises. He feels as a responsible retailer and working in partnership with the police that he should put his ducks in a row and also have the Woodbury store have the same conditions that hopefully will be reflected should you decide to add those conditions to this premises licence. So I think that will just demonstrate that he is serious about his business, wants to address any problems and certainly wants to prevent any further problems happening, does not want to be here in front of you again. Shivan, as you heard earlier, recently passed his his APLH, his awarding personal licence holders, and I'm pleased to say that on Friday he actually got his personal licence sent to him. So thank you for turning that around very quickly. But he is now a personal licence holder, so he has now done that. The shops between them, they're all family run. So there's just Mr Patel's wife, Shivan, and Mr Patel's wife and husband who work in the two shops, and apart from Mrs Patel, all four of them now have personal licences. Okay. The premises do now have a Challenge 25 policy in place, and that can be found on pages 6 to 10 of our evidence bundle. That is in place at both stores, so they now are definitely operating a Challenge 25 policy, which would be consistent with the conditions that have been agreed. They've also got a refusals book in both shops and some extracts of that of pages 12 to 13, so that proves that there is a refusals book in place as well. For Mr Patel's mother, and certainly for anybody else that comes to the store that works there that doesn't hold a personal licence, the conditions that are agreed refers to training. We've got in place in the stores both hold the essentials of alcohol workbook. A copy of that was in our evidence, pages 14 to 22. This booklet is produced by Highfield, a recognised awarding body, and in the back of the booklet there is a short quiz that the colleague would complete, and then on the other side there's a declaration by that colleague and declaration by the manager. That page is perforated, that comes out and that goes as part of their staff training. That's widely accepted around the country. If you want a hard copy, I've got plenty of hard copies there if you'd like to take those when you go into deliberation. As I said at the start, Shivan is sorry for the incident happening. The family have been in the store for a considerable number of years. Mr Patel has been in retail with alcohol for the past 19 years. All the measures have been put in place to address all the conditions that have been agreed. The police have asked for a period of suspension to allow for the conditions to come in effect, but in reality these conditions are already in effect. As soon as we looked at the conditions, agreed them, some of them are already in place before the agreement, but certainly they are all in place now. Indeed, if you did decide that a suspension of the licence was appropriate today, and we don't think it's appropriate, that suspension would not come into play for 28 days from when you make the decision because of the appeal period. So you have to ask what would a suspension do, given that suspension, we've had the period where we've put measures in place already, we're going to have 21 further days, and then a suspension would come into play. So we would say that suspension would not be appropriate and would not be proportionate in this instance, and all addresses have been concerned. And the section 182 guidance at 11.20, which talks about reviews, does say that when you decide what powers to invoke, it is expected that licensing authorities should, so far as possible, seek to establish the cause or causes of the concerns that the representations identify. Then remedial action should generally be directed at these causes and should always be no more than appropriate and proportionate response to address the causes of concern that instigated the review. At 11.23 of the section 182 guidance, it says temporary changes or suspension to the licence for up to 3 months could impact on the business holding the licence financially, would only be expected to be pursued as an appropriate means of promoting the licence objectives or preventing illegal working. So we would say, because these conditions that are agreed are now in place, that a suspension really, especially because it won't come into effect for 21 days, would really be a financial hit on the stall. The family have learnt from their experience. They are very sorry that it occurred, and sorry they're here today, and have assured me that they certainly don't want to be here again in the future. You'll see that the action has been taken to address the proposed conditions, and they have been implemented, not only at this shop but also at the Sittingbourne shop by the minor variation. And they've done this really as a responsible retailer wanting to promote the licensing objectives. We ask that you consider adding the conditions to this premises licence as within the bundle, and it is within your powers, as is within the report, that you can issue a warning against these premises, and we would ask that you issue a warning and add those conditions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wincless, any questions?
No further questions.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair. I have a number of questions. Do you want me to go through them one at a time, or do you want to answer them en bloc at the end?
Go one at a time, because I won't forget one.
Okay. Right, I've looked into obtaining a personal licence myself, and I went through the gov.uk website, which lists a number of accredited providers for training to obtain a personal licence. Is Kernia part of that gov.uk website? Or how are you accredited?
I have no idea if we're on the government website. I will go back and I will look at that. We are an accredited training centre. We've been an accredited training centre for over 20 years. First off, we were with BIIAB and now with Highfield, because we just find that Highfield are a better company to work with. But yeah, I'm an accredited trainer, and I've been an accredited trainer for over 20 years.
Okay, thank you for that. You made mention in your submission that she didn't appear to be dressed as a 14-year-old. How does a 14-year-old normally dress?
If that was my daughter, I wouldn't let her dress like that at 14. I don't know, but she appeared to me probably to be 18, more than she appeared to be 14. I think the problem is it's a matter of supposition. It's one of those things where something that appears to you could appear to me to be different, and it's a bit. If you compare it with somebody being intoxicated, how do you tell if somebody's intoxicated? You know one end of the scale. It's down to one person's view and the other person's view. So, but I certainly think that she appeared to be 18.
Thank you. It's mentioned that in the pack and in the police submission that a form of identity was shown to Shivam. If that was the case and he refused service on production of this alleged identification, why then later on did he allow the young lady in question to purchase the alcohol?
I think Andre did say when he did his presentation to you that the Shiv did say that the girl was insistent that she sold it to her. She was insistent that she was 18. He didn't recognise the ID on the phone because he wanted a physical ID, which she didn't have. I'd also back that up that in Kerry's statement on page, I think it's 27 because it's blanked out, Kerry does actually say, however, what she did mention to me, and this is the mother of the child, which I was unaware of prior to this, was that her daughter can be persistent, and this is how she may have managed to purchase the alcohol. So you've got both police officers saying that she's persistent. Shiv will tell you that she was persistent. He's quite happy to answer any questions himself, but certainly that's what he told me as well.
Thank you. And my final question, you also mentioned that both Mr. Patels have been in the trade for a number of years, and the store at McNaid has only the one article complaint against them. How can we be sure that, or you know, can you make us more certain than maybe we might be that this is an isolated incident and it's just because the other incidents haven't been reported that alcohol has been sold in the past to underage children?
Helen? Yeah. Aye.
Ask a few questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few questions. In the initial review that came through, the evidence from what Shiv told the police on their visit was that he had seen the ID. And there is also allegations that she was very persistent and perhaps she hadn't seen ID. I don't think we fully understand exactly what happened. In the evidence you've given today, you're suggesting that actually ID wasn't even asked for because she looked like she was over 18 and so wouldn't have been challenged. My question here is, this is inconsistent, and how can you reassure the subcommittee that consistent and truthful information will be forthcoming moving forward? Thank you.
Not sure how to answer that. I think the fact that Shiv has done the training now, been on the phone to me quite a lot, sent me quite a lot of messages. What should he do? What shouldn't he be doing? How do they do it? I think that what they've got now is procedures in place, and I think what they didn't have before is procedures in place. They didn't have a written children alcohol policy. They've now got that, and I've gone through that at length with him. He fully knows everything now about what he should and shouldn't be doing in terms of challenging. I think the two test purchases that took place with National Lottery show that they do ask for ID, because if they didn't ask for ID, they would have lost their. Do you have a license to sell lottery tickets? They lost the right. They have lost the license to sell lottery tickets. So I think by virtue that they have passed those two test purchases.
You get free warnings in the. Yeah, you get free warnings in the licensing for National Lottery, and every time we've had someone come in to do a test purchase, we've passed all of them in both the shops.
Thank you. That's helpful. But if you look at the lottery no ID, the one that took place in 2022, it says that this is a certificate that these procedures are in place. It says there is a system in place to ensure all staff ask for ID, and there is a refusals register. So this is 2022. So where were those systems and refusals when Trading Standards went in 2023?
I think this is for a test purchase. I can't answer for the 2023. Do you want to answer that one?
I think the National Lottery and the Trading Standard with the alcohol is two different things. They have their sort of authorisations to lottery, and obviously because when they come on site, they never ask to see the refusal book. So there was just like 3-4 questions they ask on the spot, and if you get them right and if you follow the stuff they tell you to do on the terminal, if we can do it, that's what we mean we can pass the test. And obviously they do bring someone under age of 18 to try buying the scratch cards in the lottery, and we have to ask for ID.
Thank you. So even though this says that you have a refusals register and a system in place, they didn't actually see any of that when you got this certificate?
I think it's safe to say there is a refusal register in place now. And also, what I didn't say when I was addressing you was when they scan alcohol on the till, it comes up on the till, the prompt to ask for ID as well now. So there is a double measure in there.
Thank you. My next question was regarding training. So there's potentially a new condition regarding staff training to be in place. Who will be doing that staff training?
The staff training will be delivered through the alcohol workbook. There's only one person that doesn't hold a personal licence, so the personal licence holders have all gone through the APLH course. So that's a more robust training than this. But if anybody comes to the store that doesn't have a personal licence, they'll have to go through this little workbook. And lots of authorities, police authorities around the country, recognise this as an acceptable form of training. Basic training for staff for alcohol.
Thank you. And will that be Mr. Prajesh Patel who is delivering this training, or will it be Shivam Patel?
It's a self-study training. So they have the book, they have little quizzes that go through it, and then they have the quiz at the end that they have to complete. But they complete the quiz at the end, which will probably be with Mr. Patel, as Mr. Patel is the DPS.
Thank you. And my last question was around personal licence holders, because there is proposed a new condition regarding personal licence holders being on site basically at all times. So do you have enough staff and enough personal licence holders to be able to ensure that that can be met even in unforeseen circumstances?
There are 4 members of the family with a personal licence at the moment. I did try to push back on that condition with Andre, but Andre said no, they're the conditions he wanted. So we agreed those conditions. Both Prajesh and Shivam are fully aware that if they're the only person in the store, or if there's 2 people in the store and somebody doesn't have a personal licence and one of them has to go to the cash and carry, has to go to the doctors or something like that, that they cannot sell alcohol if there is not a personal licence holder on the premises. They're well aware of the obligation or the consequences of that condition. I've gone through that at length with them, so they're fully aware that there must be, if the committee are minded to put that condition on, a personal licence holder on the premises at all times that alcohol is being sold.
I've just got one question. When the police arrived, did you actually know that the CCTV was working okay, or did you think there was something wrong with it?
No, we have had issues with it working. We did have issues with it working, and obviously there's a code on the CCTV which I had to get off my father to get the CCTV on the screen, and to even access it on my phone, he gave me the code, because without that code I can't access it. Everyone can download the app. He can, my mum can, anyone can download the app, but without that code to get into the CCTV, there was a code on it, which he gave me later when I got interviewed by Mr. Smuts to get the CCTV up.
Thank you. Questions from the police?
Yes, please, Chair. It sounds as if the premise licence holder is all but falling on his sword. But you mentioned that due to the fact that the licence up until now was devoid of any conditions under Annex 2, that effectively they were under no obligation to provide the CCTV or Challenge 25, or but is it just me, or just are they saying that that's their get out of jail clause to allow them to have run amok?
I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying, I was just highlighting that there are no conditions on the premises licence. There's no condition for CCTV even to be in the store, and there's no condition for a Challenge 21 or Challenge 25 policy to be in place. So I'm not saying that they were running amok. I think I take offence at that comment, but there was no obligation under the Licensing Act, under any condition, for them to provide CCTV.
So, but they're still subject to the licensing objectives, though, I assume.
Yeah, correct. But they can't be brought to a licence review hearing for failing to provide CCTV when there's no condition on the licence for them to provide CCTV.
No, quite right. Not for breach of licence conditions, because it's not a condition, but they still have obligations. So anyway, it's academic. Here we are. The other thing, Chair, if I may, obviously the matter of judging someone's age is subjective. So I'm looking at an image here. I didn't want to produce an image because we're in public session of a minor who looks, despite the suggestion that she's provocatively dressed, looks no more than 16. If you wanted to see the image, we needed to go into private session. However, it was quite clear. If you're in doubt, crack one out. Ask for the ID. Anyway, they've said they made the mistake and they've apologised. So I just wanted to make that clear. She doesn't look 18 to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any evidence that hasn't already been provided would need consent of all parties to provide, and I think you've indicated as well there may be issues regarding going into closed session to view this.
That's fine.
But I think the committee understand the issue is perhaps more about the circumstances of it rather than whether this specific girl was...
No, that's quite right. That's fine.
Looked under the age.
No issues. Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you, Chair. Could I just start by asking, when did the Lottery Service conduct their review and inspect a refusals book? Could you just confirm the date for me, please?
I think they would have been on the 25th of July 22 and the 30th of July 24 when they issued the two certificates. That'd be right, wouldn't it?
That's right, yeah. They're straight there and there. They write it out. Yeah, they come straight on the day. Once we've passed, they have their document and they'll sign the certificate to give us to put and display in the shop.
How many refusals books do you have in the store?
At the moment, one.
At the time when these inspections took place, how many refusals books did you have?
We had one, all in place.
So how come when my officers went in 2023, there was only one entry for May 2021, yet the lottery people apparently saw a refusals book that was up to date and allowed them to sign off and say that you were doing the right thing?
I'm not sure that a question from over a year and a half ago is probably relevant to these proceedings, is it?
It's been provided as evidence that the shop is doing something correct, whereas the evidence that I've got is that there was no refusals book entry from 2021 from officers who went in 2023. I'm just trying to substantiate the refusals book because I believe about a few minutes ago it was that there might have been more than one. It depended on which book was asked for, and I'm just trying to clarify how many books there are so that as a service we know how many we should be asking for.
Yeah, there is only one refusals book there.
Okay. I'd also just like to clarify on the point around the vapes that you've provided information on the size. During session, I have actually checked with my colleague, and we can confirm that at the time that the vapes were detained from the premises.
That's evidence that's being brought in now that wasn't brought in before, and I think if they're trying to produce evidence that it's the wrong time, they should have been before.
Thank you. Chair, any evidence that's introduced at the hearing needs consent of all parties. If Trading Standards would like to introduce something, then I would suggest an adjournment initially so that all parties can have a look at this, and then if there is consent or not to introduce what they have to say, which I don't know what it is because they haven't said yet.
And again, I probably go back to when I was addressing you. It was a small number of vapes, and from over nearly 2 years ago now.
I think we should adjourn.
Thank you, Chair. If you adjourn, I'll have a look.
Thank you. We will adjourn. Be back soon. We'll just wait for Mr. Patel. Thank you, everyone. We won't talk about the other thing. Have you got any more questions?
There was just one more that I would like to ask, Chair, thank you. And that's around the Challenge 25. I believe in your submission you said that they don't need to. I know that from underage packs that we provide as a service to retailers, there would have been indication in there for a refusals book and guidance and instruction on Challenge 25, and we know that the poster was displayed within the premises. With that in mind, why wasn't the Challenge 25 followed in relation to this, considering at the first opportunity the ID or the sale was refused? Why did it change later on?
I think what I was referring to was no condition on the licence, premises licence for a Challenge 25 policy or Challenge 21, and the only challenge policy is the one that was a condition 9 of the mandatory conditions that are on the premises licence. That to say, you know, they have learnt from the experience. They do have a policy in place now. They're all signed up to that policy, and I'm assured that that policy is going to be followed throughout for the future on both shops.
And you can confirm that the owners and shop workers are fully aware that 18 is the legal age and not 16 as they were given in 2 occasions with conversations with officers from our service.
They certainly know that. They've known that for the last 2 years. It means it's been 2 years ago since that statement was made.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please could I ask the police to summarise briefly their closing remarks? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So, Kent Police Licensing are of the opinion that we weren't told the truth on the day. We didn't hold much credence for his honesty and how he was managing with the shop. However, they have gone some way, as I say, to pull up the stops, as it were, to add the conditions that I've suggested. And Mr. Patel becoming qualified and obtaining his licence. Again, however, maybe a shot across their bows is not something which should be dismissed, and maybe a period of suspension, irrespective of whether there's going to be an appeal or not. That's a consideration for yourselves, which we'd support. Albeit, I'm going to just reiterate that they have done everything that we've asked for, and we are appreciative of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please could Trading Standards summarise briefly their closing remarks? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, our services has been concerned over the issues relating to the reports of underage sales. There is a gap within the time frame that is unexplained. We would support the police's request and your consideration some of the activity that's been alleged appears to be outside of normal trading circumstances, which we would ask you to consider. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could the premises licensing holder and their representatives summarise briefly their closing remarks? Thank you.
Yeah, I won't take too much of your time, but I think hopefully you'll be able to see that the actions have been put in place from the conditions that we've agreed with the police, not only at this store but also at the Sittingbourne store. So hopefully we've got two premises dealt with here. I think the suspension wouldn't be right. There is the 21-day period that stays any decision that you make today coming into effect. So I'd just remind you of 11.20 and 11.23 of the Section 182 guidance, and that if there is a suspension, that it will only really have a financial impact on these premises. It won't really serve to have time to bed those conditions in, because those conditions are now being addressed and being adhered to, even though they're not on the premises licence yet, if you're minded to put those on. So we would just ask that the conditions, as agreed with the police, be added to the premises licence, and if necessary issue a warning to the premises. I don't know if you want to say anything more, do you, Siobhan?
Yes, I'd like to say something. Firstly, I would like to apologise for this matter that we are here for, and I'll make sure that this will never happen again moving forward.
Any final questions from the subcommittee? Any questions from Helen? Thank you everyone for waiting so long. Anyway, our legal officer will read out our decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The Licensing Subcommittee considered the application for a review of the premises licence for Macnade Stores, the report, representations and all submissions made at today's hearing. They also considered the Licensing Act 2003, the guidance and the Council's licensing policy. The decision of the Licensing Subcommittee is to endorse the conditions that have been agreed between the police and the premises licence holder, and which are set out on pages 29 to 31 of the agenda, and a warning will also be issued. The Licensing Subcommittee were concerned about the allegations made in the review and the credibility and consistency of some of the evidence provided. However, they considered that significant steps have been taken towards responsible retailing of alcohol, including training and a review of all the procedures. In those circumstances, it was not considered that suspension was an appropriate or proportionate step at this time. The Licensing Subcommittee gave careful consideration to a number of matters raised, and full reasons will be provided in the written decision, which will follow this hearing, along with the written warning. That will include information on how a party may appeal the decision. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you everyone. The meeting is formally closed at 12:08. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you.